Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we have ourselves 6 tracks off of an album from an act named KIGGAREVEAL titled Crocodile, Tears, Burns, Alligators. And if we switch over to here, hopefully I have not mispronounced the hashtag on the screen. We've got the album art here. We're going to listen through these 6 tracks from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. And just letting you know that I've got a link to the playlist as well as the actual album itself within the description of the video, but let's go, let's do it.
KIGGAREVEAL presents Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators.
Crocodile tears burn alligators. Crocodile tears burn alligators. Crocodile tears burn alligators. Crocodile tears burn alligators. All my life, I wanted the gold and the riches. Gay on the gun, bullets not made for the bitches. Street talk on telephones, the pilots flying hawking me. My life is like a movie, how the world keeps watching me. Television commercials running, that's for the weed, man. Rivers in the ocean, burning water, never been a fan. Overhead the air condition, making sure my air condition. Murder house on the field trip, sign your name, you need my permission. Riding black dicks to make the white come out. Some people throw up children and swallow them back down. Backseat freestyle, tell me what hood pussy you bout. If you crip walk north where your blood drips south. Keep my dick in your mouth, suck it up till accommodate. 6:30's on the 12, when the 5 gets left at 8. You not hungry but you thirsty, drink my juice right off the plate. Crocodile tears burn alligators. You and death have a breakfast date. Crocodile tears burn alligators. Crocodile tears burn alligators.
This is awesome, dude.
Crocodile tears burn alligators. Crocodile tears burn alligators. Crocodile tears burn alligators.
Great term delays and scratching in the background.
Crocodile tears burn alligators. Sunday morning coffee, Saturday you pour the juice. Every gun has a dick that fucks with bad news. Pussy is a wall that's so many windows see through. Dick is the old demon that pussy angels pray to. Nothing new. Dead bodies, I know a few. Skeletons becomes mannequins, dressed to kill for the youth. You rather live lying than to die by the truth. Old bullets shoot the young to show cakes out the new pair of shoes. Blood turn blue when the owl says who. Bullets turn to airplanes when it lands on the view. Caskets are made for solo, bunk beds are made for crews. Don't confess all you did, pray on what you wanna do. Drive a body on the highway, crash out, then you sue. Every pussy squirt lies when dicks don't keep it true. Crime in a rich mind, but too broke to buy a clue. Crocodile tears burn alligators on Murder Avenue. Crocodile tears
Great little pause there with the panning there.
Butterfly till the day that I die. The illusion of the mind's when you're blind to the eye. See what you hear and taste what you find. Cocaine's a picket fence, don't you dare cross that line. Mental health is a disease, don't compete, you'll be fine. Stay away from dark demons that suffocate your shine. Time to keep track of death and we're running out of time. Every lemon head, no twist the blood in the line. Demolish expectations, keep the world out the swine. Cut off the head first, use the body as the wine. Dance on the casket, fashion killer on the crime. Horoscope killer sees money as a sign. Borrow from a bully after 10 there is 9. Poison in a kiss when you shrug on the vines. Swallow the bullet till it flows through your spine. Align your divine with a calculated mind. Crocodile tears. Crocodile tears burn alligators.
And back to that hook one.
Burn alligators. Burn alligators. Burn alligators. Crocodile tears burn alligators. Burn alligators. Burn alligators.
I mean, that's exceptional. Like, genuinely. I really enjoyed my time with this track. It's a phenomenal first impression to KIGGAREVEAL's music. Because this is the first track titled Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators. Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators. What do we think this track is about? Because it's going to be providing an overall song analysis per track and then like a final sort of like overall conclusion at the end. I suppose because there's a lot of different things that were discussed within there and it's kind of difficult to sort of amalgamate them into like a simple kind of overall message. If I was to go with Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators and kind of like connect that to a lot of what I heard there, I kind of think it's more about kind of being true to yourself and not allowing yourself to, like, there was a lot of sexual connotations within it, and allowing yourself to get fucked by other people. They talk about seeing you in death for a breakfast menu or something like that, like you're all going to end up in the same place potentially, but just trying to sort of be like true yourself in the meantime until you get there. There's a lot of wordplay in here, trying to keep track of death and running out of time there, and like mental health's a disease, and there are these bits of wordplay there that also kind of make me wonder whether it's more about focusing on what your real kind of pain is, as opposed to like what's kind of illusory, and kind of focusing on just kind of actually healing yourself and not choosing the wrong option. I need more time with this track, and I think that it's good that I want to listen through it again. The vocal performance was fantastic. Clearly we can rap really well. We've got great flow and cadence through these different lines there. We switch up the rhythms really neatly. We have a great flow in relation to the rhythmic elements, some of the percussion elements there, and we slam it throughout. The voiceover at the start is just a kind of unexpected way to start this track. It's very kind of formal and you don't know what you're getting yourself into, but then to kind of go straight into that main theme and get more sort of elaboration from KIGGAREVEAL, as we have a different sort of way, with different vocal chops as well, but a different sort of vocalization of the Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators in the chorus line, just being repeated over and over to get that stuck in your head. It's just kind of like you saying, I know I'm talking about a lot of different things right now, but this is the most important part. You need to understand it. And so you kind of cling on to that amongst everything else. And there's like this kind of grit to it, like this glow to it. And I like that it kind of sounds like a voiceover in that part, sort of production wise as well. In fact, the production generally across this track is very, very good. And the reason that's so important in a first song is that it implies that it's going to probably be good for the rest of the album as well. Structurally though, at 3 minutes 21, very effective across the board though. Again, we have that voiceover at the start linking into proceedings there. And then immediately you have the Crocodile Tears Burn Alligators and just this thumping kind of old school hip hop beat there with a great sort of mixture of kind of processed kick snares and cymbal patterns there with some sort of syncopated kind of kicks and snares there. You just got a great sort of swagger to it. And this like incredible kind of tone to the bass. It's just nice. It's vibrant and it's very kind of like assertive, like, hey, you're paying attention to me now. And we don't have the layers the entire time. We'll take away the drums sometimes, occasionally have bass to kind of continue across to the next part. And we're just playing with expectations a little bit there. Just good to sort of vary the layers there for effect across the piece, because it's well within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot where, it's the right length. It doesn't overstay its welcome and it's not missing any context. And there are these little kind of brass stabs there occasionally, and they're just fun bits of ear candy to add a bit of extra register in the upper range there to go. It's just because you've already got so much going on the lows to mids there, a bit of color and variety on top of the main sort of root note that's kind of continued. And then you have these kind of unusual key lines in that hook section there that kind of bum, 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 bum. And it's these 4 notes or chords there with occasional tails there that have a loop, but it's also kind of unresolved as kind of in a way that suggests that we still have room to go, and that just because we've found the message we're looking for doesn't mean that the mission's complete. The turntablism that we have though, the scratching and the kind of manipulation there, and also the variations of it across the track though are phenomenal though. I just like how we're kind of using it as a rhythmic device in a different sort of texture that's not necessarily meant to be instrumental, but kind of comes across that way anyways. And there are additional sort of mid-range kind of paddle sort of brass layers, or a bit of extra kind of like a glow later on as we go through the piece here. We add different sounds there to fill out the track and add compositional diversity, which is really good. And there are these occasional pauses without really any instruments at all, where the vocals have this kind of echo, dear, 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 dear. And it's just nice to also make the use of the fact that it's such a tight mix from a production and commercial. To be fair, it does sound commercial grade, I mean compositional perspective, a production or compositional perspective. That again, allowing space for the vocals to kind of hover there in the mix, or having a pause before some more scratching on the turntables. It captures the listener's attention. They're like, oh, what's going to happen? What's next? What is this? I mean, lines like swallow the bullet till it flows through your spine or something like that. There's just these really cool sentences. And again, I just feel like you really need to give KIGGAREVEAL time with the storytelling there in order to understand all the sort of lyrical intricacies. But thematically, I think like compositionally, it's meant to sort of like work with a kind of a minor overall kind of key sig, but that has some kind of funky key and bass parts there, or some brass elements there that are a bit more sort of playful and less serious or intense there. I think a lot of the main focus of this track is more on the rhythmic elements and the groove, as per the rapping, the drums and the bass, and how they sort of sync and coalesce with one another. But I think that nonetheless there is enough harmony within this piece to carry it and adjustments throughout it, as well as great use of space to make this track interesting. And I think it's more about making the kind of style of music we needed for the specific track rather than trying to sort of imply a specific message with the chord progressions or the bass lines themselves individually. The studio production is phenomenal. Great balanced. It just sounds like I'm glazing at this point, but it's sincere. Like the sounds, again, it sounds commercial grade. The vocals are coming through nice and clearly in the mix, whether they're chorus vocals or the rapped kind of verse parts, or again, the kind of spoken intro at the start there, or the vocal chops in the upper register, as well as certain parts. We can hear the bass, the drums, any sort of brass or key parts and scratching there. It's very professional. Music surrounds you in the headphones, and there's no weird resonances in the frequency spectrum, and it's nice and loud with that pump. Well, it does pump a bit, but in a way that makes sense for the genre, for the style of music again. Things are side-tained neatly. It's got a thump to it, and I imagine these headphones aren't super bassy, but this sounds sick through a car stereo. And just as a closing note, the control of that 808 at the end, I think that bass there, it's such a phenomenal amount of sub bass in here with these headphones, where just there was so much to appreciate beforehand, but you didn't notice how well it was controlled in that part of the frequency spectrum. But on to track 2, I Kissed a Boy. Let's go.
Kissed a boy and I really like it. It felt really good. I will not hide it. I can't deny it. I'm so excited. I really like it. I kissed a boy and I really like it. It felt really good. I'm happy I tried it. I can't deny it. I'm so excited. I really like it. Freedom is the key of the world's humanity. Fulfill creativity, real or make believe. Vision grew a rose, gardens ain't what it seemed. Sex was locked up, now I'm motherfucking free. I am lost. I really need your help. Can you hear me? Or am I talking to myself? Where do I go? I really have no clue. Never done this before. Please tell me what to do. I kissed a boy and I really like it. It felt
Very different to the previous track.
I will not hide it. I can't deny it. I'm so excited. I really like it. I kissed a boy and I really like it. It felt really good. I'm happy I tried it. I can't deny it. I'm so excited. I really like it. Dead man mentality. Blind heart too numb to speak. Mind has turned dark. Lighthouse, please just let me be. No blood, I can't breathe. Is this real or a dream? My mind's alive, awake when my heart's dead asleep. I am lost. I really need your help. Can you hear me? Or am I talking to myself? Where do I go? I really have no clue. Never done this before. Please tell me what to do. I kissed a boy and I really like it. It felt really good. I will not hide it. I can't deny it. I'm so excited. I really like it. I kissed a boy and I really like it. It felt really good. I'm happy I tried it. I can't deny it. I'm so excited. I really like it.
It's nice to have these guitars come at this point as an additional layer. I mean, that was stunning. It's so different to Crocodile Tears Burn as Alligators, though. Like, that's fascinating. So this is an interesting track. I Kissed a Boy. I don't think it's just about, liking kissing a boy. I think it also discusses, we felt like we couldn't be open and honest about our feelings towards us, and we've kind of unlocked something within ourselves through the process. We need help with it. But, nonetheless, I think it's an interesting track. Again, as a standalone concept, it's immediately interesting to me that if this is KIGGAREVEAL just exploring different styles of music, they've done both very well here. It's really effective with the crowd chants as well as the main sort of clean vocals. And I like the glow and use of the vocal tones with the falsetto or high range parts in the end of the chorus sections, as well as the kind of breathiness in some parts and just the belts and others within the clean parts. I think that we articulate ourselves neatly. We do kind of sound like we're calling out at points. Other times we're being sort of more conversational. And I think that there's a sense of kinsmanship within that. And it's very kind of rock and roll and kind of an interesting sense there with the fry that we have occasionally there, and a great sort of like awareness of other parts within the arrangement there. We sing in a way that makes sense with the subject matter and the textures and timbres within the instrumental arrangement. So it's great that we can handle those different elements. At 2 minutes 30, this track is quite short. It doesn't overstay its welcome though. You've got various verses and choruses and bridges, and I think that's really all you need here. It's very straight to the point with the vocals, I Kissed a Boy, and then we have the guitars come in there, and I remember mentioning at the end that like I was liking that the guitars are an additional layer. That wasn't to say that we hadn't had guitars at all. The bar chords that we have in those guitar patterns there underneath the vocals are a nice bit of additional color that we didn't necessarily have in the previous tracks. It was more sort of like bass and drum and sort of like turntable operated, but to have like these really subtle vocal layers come up on the side when things are building up, and also to double track the vocals at certain other elements for a bit of extra oomph is really neat. And this kind of dance groove here with like closed and open hi-hats, syncopated accents on the offbeats, was just really dope, man, with a chord note accent on the kicks and snares. I did like that. It's just, you want to move along to it. And there's this incredibly funky bass line. I've said funky several times, but just the way the kind of bass moves between like octaves and fifths and notes within the chord progressions, and is very, very kind of agile and flexible in their approach there. Tight to the groove of the kit is fantastic. Really good. In fact, the bass is incredibly active in some parts, such as the 30-second mark, where like you can hear it's going like 16th notes. It's super duper quick, dude. You hear the boom boom, and you like have this portamento on the way it goes boom, almost like it's a guitar, but it kind of also sounds like a synthesizer. And that's just a fun sound. And I think we also have some hand drums or something like that in other parts building into the next bit there. There's a complexity to the composition that I feel is well explored and justified. I mean, like, you can't take the listener's attention for granted here, but I think the listeners in general can be quite spoiled with the amount that's going on within this shorter form factor. And there's like risers there before we go into the crowd chant, the kind of bridge part, doing a call and response to the mains inside there. I mean, like, we transition well between parts. And with the kind of crowd vocals going, really, really like it. And then we had the claps as well, an alternate sort of like a kind of a foil to some of the snares we have in other bits. And I think when you get to the later stages and you have kind of like synth leads playing over top of it and articulating themselves neatly when they've got range somehow or room to do so within a spectrum, it's just really dope. Like, we're fitting so much in, and that kind of very sizzly kind of synth at the end there. I kind of needed to do a double take there, primarily because I was trying to figure out what its function was and what it was. But the moment I got it, the track ended, and it flew by, dude. And there's this wonderful kind of vibrato to it. It's almost kind of like surreal how it warbled there, but a lot of it was so smooth within this piece, having something kind of literally oscillating or vibrating as a texture was kind of neat. And I think there was also middle eight as well, if I'm not mistaken. They're just a very kind of classic kind of pop kind of structure to it. You know, fundamentals were adhered to, range of different rhythms there. We had like a mixture of major and minors there. We had a minor sort of key overall there, but we played around with those chords on the guitar there that had a bit of the general mood of the track sounded like a celebration of the situation we're in there. I think, again, the minor leading was more to sort of represent the kind of struggle we have coping with this, but also the energy behind the chorus parts were like dancing around, kind of enjoying that we'd finally gotten to that point. And I think the tension in those last few chords of the chorus sections there with like the tension of those two chords then building into the minor, I just think it was trying to show a bit of kind of complexity emotionally without needing to resort to extensions within the harmonies. And although, to be fair, I think there were some sort of seventh chords in some of the guitar bar chord sections, especially with kind of the arpeggiated synth patterns at the end there and how they went down. So yeah, no, I think if there was any sort of complexity track harmonically, it was meant to be less subtle and more a sort of an amalgamation of all the different individual instrument layers, melodies kind of going with one another in the mix. So yeah, it's a really interesting piece regardless. And again, a lot of the appeal of this is the energy behind the overall performance in general and the charisma behind it. The studio recording, mixing and mastering, similar comments to the previous track. And that's probably going to be like a section yeah, basically assumed that if I thought the first track was produced really well, that the rest are as well. But I'll still note things that are kind of like unique to this piece. I think that we had a great sort of like polished clean vocals and the crowd chants and the other little bits on the side there. I like the panning of them in a stereo field as well, how they were nice and wide. I thought that was really cool. I liked how we played between the positioning of those vocal takes, and also how we managed to get those different synth layers to kind of behave with each other and niche within the frequency spectrum there, because it can be difficult to get that many things, especially behind like quite an active vocal layer, to be both prominent but also not too much. It's a delicate balancing act. But you know, things thumped along. Again, it was a dance track with accents on the quarter notes, and typically just, yeah, it was nice and loud. It was a loud track, but that's kind of what you need with music. You don't want it to be too, especially with nowadays, if it's too quiet, it sort of sounds unprofessional. So well done. This is good. This is good. We've got Drive Slow Fast Car. Let's go. Let's do it.
Drive slow in a fast car, independent time, there's no way, swim or melt away. Drive slow in a fast car, you crashed and burned, switching lanes. You're so numb to the pain. Drive slow in that car, independent time, there's no way, swim or melt away. Drive slow in fast car, you crashed and burned, switching lanes. It's funny, we died the same. Your apartment is made out of diamonds. You decorate every place you stay. Your brain can't make a decision. You live alone with no rent to pay. Your smile has evil intentions. Death is a game you'll die to play. You make everything a bragging competition. You sleep alone with nowhere to pray. I can't judge, I'm no better. Every time I win, it's like I always lose. I breathe to see your reflection. If you look in the mirror, I bleed just like you. Drive slow in a fast car, independent time, there's no way, swim or melt away. Drive slow in a fast car, you crashed and burned, switching lanes. It's funny, we died the same. My house is made out of problems. People's dreams get killed on the avenue. Is forgiveness really your mission? Bullets get killed when we shoot out truth. White cocaine needs black intervention. Choose a side, suicide, showcase the proof. One day you'll be blind if you listen to watch your words speak out for you. I can't judge, I'm no better. Every time I win, it's like I always lose. I breathe to see your reflection. If you look in the mirror, I bleed just like you. Drive slow in a fast car, independent time, there's no way, swim or melt away. Drive slow in a fast car, you crash and burn, switching lanes. It's funny, we died the same. Now we're dead, is that really a problem? Our spirits are free, our bodies cannot move. Was dying our living decision. We can live as ghosts, we are now see through. Memories turn questions, can we really solve them? Did we ever live? Was the life true? Death angel, I didn't want to call him. You thank me for taking my life with you. My life with you. Death angel, I didn't want to call him. You thank me for taking my life with you.
Drive Slow Fast Car. What about this one? So I think that this track is talking about someone who, or themselves, they're talking about going too fast and making a mistake, switching lanes, and it's put them in a position where they can't reverse that decision. And they're trying to sort of figure out what they could have done differently, or kind of commiserating on the fact that there could have been an alternative to how things were. When they say, if you look in the mirror, I bleed just like you, it's almost saying, hey, we're all just human beings and we're all capable of doing things differently for better or worse. And it's all about just trying to sort of solve our problems either collectively or by simply at the worst case slowing down before you get into a crash. We had a far more gentle approach to the vocal performance in this track than I Kissed a Boy, and it was still very different to the first track as well. I like that we're exploring our vocal range and that we can be a little more vulnerable with some really sort of like delicate falsetto or head voice in certain parts. There were some vibratos, some really fantastic vocal harmonies as well as we go through the track there. It sounds really pretty, you know. It works well for its style of music that it's going through. It's quite appropriate. And there are some really cool sort of portamento parts and tails on different elements, and we switch up the vocals in different parts and adjust cadences, and it's more than enough to get us through the 3 minutes, you know. 3 minutes you've got different verse and chorus parts and instrumental sections, and you've got time to appreciate the main sort of accompaniment being the guitar elements there. With the kind of, they've got like the kind of percussive tone of like the butt of the hand there, kind of like banging on the body of the guitar there, playing some sort of like percussive elements whilst they do finger style with the bass notes and other fingers. They might also have percussion. There is another note there. I can just, like I could hear some sort of cymbals occasionally on the right side. But it could also be a cajon or something, I'm not sure. Either way, regardless, as an acoustic instrumental piece with occasional cymbal hits there, and with the vocals providing most of the flavor and color within the panning element of it, I think we explore our rhythms well. I think it's gentle enough to communicate what we need to in a way that is effective. Yeah, there's definitely a kid in there, like around the 125 mark, I can hear some sort of like kicks there. So I think it's just very kind of subtle with the percussion. We're not trying to overstep our welcome with that. We don't need it to be as active as the previous one, I Kissed a Boy. And I like the use of those kind of like, again, those finger-picked and strummed sort of open chords. I think there might have been a capo used to get to the range that they're at to the vocal, because you typically put the capo on your guitar in a position where the low and high notes are covered by your vocal range. So I think that the positioning for that was great. The key signature works well as well. And there was great use of kind of like the actual fingerstyle technique adjusting rhythms there, but also adding little bits of hammer-ons and pull-offs occasionally there, as well as some interesting sort of like ninth chords and other sort of sus or extended parts there. We had a brightness and a shimmer to the guitars that I think illustrated a sense of love for the person that we were dedicating this track to. Like, we seemed like we really cared about them. So I think there was that kind of sincerity and that connection between the vocal and guitar parts. So, you know, generally, you know, quite solid tune there as an isolated concept. We're just exploring different subject matters that we want to talk about here. I think occasionally there was a bit of distortion on the vocals. I think that could just be the limiter pushed a little bit too hard in certain parts there, like a bit of a kind of a buzz or something like that. I could be tripping, but that's just, we've already got these tracks quite loud. Like I'm listening to this through headphones and I've got this at the normal volume I have where like they're quite limited, and you could have potentially had a bit more dynamic range for a piece like this with acoustics, but that's totally fine as a stylistic decision, especially if we're wanting sort of intensity, kind of continuity within the piece. It's fine, it's all good. Because we got When Did I Die, track number 4.
Voices all in my head, they repeat what you said. Am I alive, am I dead? Feel so insane. Dark mind shined in my light, when did I die? I need to know why. Who stole my life? 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 I don't know what to do after life because of you. Can't believe this is true. I'm a ghost you see through. I don't know what to say. Ever since I passed away, you can close my casket. I'm blind to see your face. Your killer love murdered me. Now my soul's been set free. My heart is buried deep. I'm awake when I'm asleep. All my pain, all my lies, all my dreams are now inside my heart. Erased by shine. You start to live the same day I die. Voices all in my head, they repeat what you said. Am I alive, am I dead? Feel so insane. Dark my life, when did I die?
Very used to those subtle flicks on the kit.
You stole my life, stole my, 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 you stole my life. Since I'm dead, you say my name, jealousy cannot be tamed. You're the player of my game, am I driving you insane? I'm in your head, I'm in your brain. You feel my pain when it rains. Things turn different, seasons change. Now you're acting very strange. I'm in your body, killing spree. I'm confused, how could this be? There's a stranger in my heart, but a person feels like me. All my pain, all my lies, all my dreams are now inside my heart. Erased by shine, you start to live the same day I die. Voices all in my head, they repeat what you said. Am I alive, am I dead? Feel so insane. Dark mind, shine, dim my light, when did I die? I need to know why. You stole my life, you stole my, you stole my life, stole my, you stole my life, stole my, you stole my life, stole my, you stole my life. Baby, baby, take it easy, find it in your heart to reach me. Please don't leave me behind. Doctor, doctor, can you heal me? Find the pills you wanna give me. I need medicine for my mind. Baby, baby, take it easy, find it in your heart to reach me. Please don't leave me behind. Doctor, doctor, can you heal me? Find the pills you wanna give me. I need medicine for my mind. Voices all in my head, they repeat what you said. Am I alive, am I dead? Feel so insane. Dark mind, shine, dim my light, when did I die? I need to know why. You stole my life, stole my, 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 you stole my life.
Interesting use of vocal chops here with the vibrato on those. Interesting. Okay. And so this was When Did I Die, track number 4 for today. I think this is someone talking about losing their sense of self. They've become a ghost, they don't even know who they are anymore, they're wondering when they gave this power over to someone, or when they lost that power within themselves, and they're kind of sort of doing some introspection there. And yeah, effectively I think that's the crux of it, effectively. They're just trying to figure out what's occurred within their existence. And I think that there'll be an audience for this song. I think, as well as probably I Kissed a Boy and Drive Slow Fast Car, and I think Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators, once people have had time to sort of absorb the lyrics and kind of get a feel for that, I think that'll be there too. I think the vocal performance kind of reminds me of a lot of the kind of mid-2010s kind of pop music, like from Imagine Dragons and stuff like that, and I don't know whether that's going to be a compliment or not. I think that it's produced and sung well, it's articulated neatly. We sound very earnest in our approach, kind of working through things. I thought the pads that would kind of grow and then fade away, they kind of crescendo and then bounce off during the, like one of the verse parts at the start there was very kind of like pensive. It was nice to have that surrounding of the choir trying to sort of commiserate with them. The vocal chops you had the bottom, like those are just really neat melodies there. They're not overcomplicated. They're ones you can kind of hum along to, especially if you're not necessarily that familiar with it. We reiterate on that vocal motif as we go through the track in different parts, you know. And we have like repeated words like all my life and everything like that. And we kind of like use that as a kind of rhythmical device. It's just very satisfying for listeners. It's more about getting specific sentences and phrases through so that they're memorized, and adding further sort of like context to kind of ground why the justification for why they feel that way in the first place. When I talk about voices all in their head and everything like that, it does kind of sound like that kind of there are other matters going on as well. So I kind of think that when we go up into a voice and we add a bit of sort of exasperation and anxiety to it, it just kind of sells the turmoil or the tension we're going through. Structurally at 4 minutes 13, it's longer than the other 3 tracks we've had so far, and I think that for the most part it justifies its length. I feel like I got a lot of what this track was about within the first minute, so I feel like that was communicated well. There could have potentially have been like a change of groove or a change of pace there, or even gone like quad, like quarter time or something like that, then and go on like super duper kind of breakdown or change the tempo or something like that in the later stages there to kind of really make it sound like we were examining how our own being stuck there and not moving at all. You could have potentially even removed the percussion to make it sound even more empty at that stage to add further sort of compositional diversity to it. I think in general the drums are relatively subdued though, to be fair, throughout this, typically working with cymbals, some clicks or claps or, you know, so like we got the main fundamentals of the kicks, hi-hats and claps, and that's all we really need here. We have them as a kind of like an occasional device simply to provide a sense of groove and pace through this because the bass is so dominant. And the bass itself just kind of warps through, it's like it's kind of like the demons are there in the ether looking at you and constantly sort of wavering over top or trying to look for a way to get in. And when you get the thud of some of those kicks where you just kind of slam the mix there, you kind of like, it was almost like you're waking up, I suppose, with the whoa, those pads that I mentioned earlier around the 45-50 mark there. They're an octave up from some of those bass or sort of like lower string pad ideas, so they just niche nicely within the, you know, within the frequency spectrum. And again, like there is variation, to be fair, around like the 3-minute 35 mark with the falsetto and the vibrato as it tumbles downwards, but like, yeah, I think, yeah, to be fair though, there wasn't a lot instrumentally introduced to be able to justify an additional like, solo section or tiny heel turn there. I feel like we examined the subject matter that we were talking about very well, and I think with the amount of focus that we have in this form factor, I'm wondering if that is like, I mean, Life Bottle is Empty is the next track, so it makes me wonder whether this is chronologically like this the tail we're going on. Regardless of the style, the minor leaning throughout this piece makes a lot of sense there. You know, we're not trying to be too up and at 'em and super bouncy or sort of like excited about things. We're struggling with our own sort of like our permanence there, or rather impermanence, I suppose there. The struggle was simply our house, the pain, the love, the difficulty, wondering where it all went. You know, how things happened as they did. And I think a lot of the coloration harmonically comes within the vocal layers and how they integrate with the bass lines as well as other elements in the string pads. And I think that if we'd added more, again, despite the fact we could have adjusted the groove in the later track, or like, you know, it's totally fine. The studio recording, mixing and mastering here, it's heavy when it needs to be, such as the kind of force behind some of those kicks and how ominous those kind of bass or string pad patterns sound. There is brevity in certain elements there. Things float like the vocals when there's space to do so in the upper register, and we niche well with those upper pads that we hit talk about around the 50-second mark. So I think that the frequency spectrum is well sort of fleshed out. The music surrounds you in the headphones. It's loud, it pumps, but in a way which makes total sense. And yeah, I don't know if this is my favorite one off of the album so far, but I still nonetheless appreciate the musicality of it. Then we have Life Bottle is Empty, track number 5. Do I know this melody?
Life bottle is empty, life bottle keep calling your name. You irritate me in so many ways, I can't stand how you play your game. Life cycle is empty, life cycle keeps saving your head. Your mind fucked up many days, your reflection keeps showing the same. This moment is empty, this moment keeps saying your name. You make me sick in so many ways, your life should make you ashamed. This problem is empty, this problem keep crashing your aim. You don't even know what to say, it's sad that you don't wanna change. Supernova keep growing, she's different now. Supermodel keep walking, she's pimping now. Where do I go when the wind blows? When do I leave when you get home? Superpower all glowing, he's tricking now. Supernatural is showing, it's clicking now. Where do you go when a breeze flows? When do you leave now that time froze? Life bottle
is empty, life bottle keep calling your name. You irritate me in so many ways, I can't stand how you play your game. Life cycle is empty, life cycle keeps saving your head. Your mind fucked up many days, your reflection keeps showing the same. This promise is empty, this promise is killing your brain. I did you in so many ways, it's really a surprise that you're alive. Forgiveness is empty, forgiveness has destroyed all your wins. You a loser and I can't count the days. You a dog that can't be a train boy. Supernova keep growing, she's different now. Supermodel keep walking, she's pimping now. Where do I go when the wind blows? When do I leave when you get home? Superpower all glowing, he's tricking now. Supernatural is showing, it's clicking now. Where do you go when the breeze flows? When do you leave now that time froze? Life bottle is empty, life bottle keep calling your name. You irritate me in so many ways, I can't stand how you play your games. Life cycle is empty, life cycle keeps saving your head. Your mind fucked up many days, your reflection keeps showing the same.
So how are we gonna use this remaining minute? That was a sensible choice, well done. Okay, so that was Life Bottle is Empty by KIGGAREVEAL. I think this track is discussing someone who is looking at their own life with this other person within it, and we've just realized that we're running on empty, we're running on fumes and kind of struggling to cope with the situation. And looking at other people and their relative success or failures and just, and kind of like, again, figuring out where our own place is both, you know, within ourselves, whether we even still have a home with someone else. So yeah, I think that it does follow on quite nicely. I mean, unfortunately, because it sounds like we're going through some stuff, but Life Bottle is Empty, I think, follows on from When Did I Die to a certain extent, kind of analyzing not just what's happened, but also looking at one of the potential sources of the situation there and just realizing, yeah, no, I'm definitely running on empty at the moment, I'm running on fumes. So like, I think that having the lady vocals, when we had them in certain parts of this piece, was nice because it just kind of followed on as like the lady's voice when we talk about she's doing these things, etc. It's their perspective as well, almost like both people involved have their own sort of angle on what's being done, and we get more of that harmony, especially in some of those later choruses where they both come in together. We also have these hums, kind of melodies or harmonies in the last sort of outro pseudo instrumental section there, and it was just great to have less of the storytelling there and more of just kind of the sound of things. It's very sort of like, I was kind of concerned that we were going to have another go through of the chorus or the verse at the end, because I just feel like we'd had enough context at that later stage to sort of justify going back to the orchestral performance or components that we had in the previous part of the song, just to kind of tie the loop around. I do recognize that piano melody from somewhere though. I do recognize that. There's a part of me that I don't know where to place it. It's just the way that the harmonies are done with those woodwinds, the keys kind of dancing the way they do. It's just there's something about that melody. I just can't place it. But I think it kind of sounds youthful and innocent, and it's very pretty sounding. And we're trying to sort of maybe elicit a feeling of a gentle contemplation of our position there. Maybe we've found a sort of more calm place to be able to consider what we're going through in our own sort of position now that things have de-escalated a little bit. The use of the brushes around the 40-minute mark on the kit is a sensible decision there. They're so much, again, to use the word gentle, so much softer than if you had an entire full drum kit there. It adds a sort of a jazzy illusion to it. But it also works well from the perspective of simply nothing being too aggressive. And I think that, you know, you have the do-do-do-do-do-do kind of cool responses there, playing a motif that navigates and kind of reflects some of the note choices from the vocalist in those verse parts. There's even like a shh kind of sound that's going through a lot of those kind of quieter instrumental parts, which I'm just wondering if that's the room sound that's been boosted or not. There's like a hiss to it there. And we don't just have the lady vocal kind of parts of choir bits coming in with KIGGAREVEAL on their parts, and along the same rhythm. We also have them kind of call and respond and form a similar function to some of the string elements earlier. In fact, yeah, it's I don't know how to describe that instrument. It's got a nice kind of buzz to it, doesn't it? So that's part of what makes the verse a bit more distinct, or at least between them, is that we change the call and responses. But they're connected because they play similar melodies or passages. Around that 3-minute 20 mark, where we have like that kind of flute playing a distinct kind of melody that is very similar to what we had initially. It's almost like we've had a lot of the context of subject matter up until that point, and we simply wanted to have a break or a pause for respite. Then for KIGGAREVEAL's vocals to come in one final time before that last take, it was just a very kind of pretty summation of the position they're in. I think there's also some strummed kind of guitar parts or something, or another kind of instrument there that kind of adds a nice sort of pseudo kind of rhythmic device there alongside the minimalism of the kicks and the brushes. And with the piano kind of simmering down after that, and in the finale of it, you're left kind of going, okay, this feels like it was a little more fleshed out and more compositionally diverse than we had with When Did I Die, which is more like a meditation on how we got there in the first place. Life Bottle is Empty almost ends thematically like we're finding a beauty in the fact that we're able to consider our own existence in the first place. It's unexpectedly major in parts there with the triads and tone choices and quality of the chords, and I just think, especially with the interval choices on those harmonized kind of different flute tracks there, how they resonate together, there's a kind of a beautiful glow to it that is very easy to listen to. So I feel like we go on a really pleasant journey with this one. Similar comments to the studio production here. I note the kind of the hum or the noise I can hear on some of those flute or sort of orchestral tracks there, but I figure that's just simply because we've boosted and limiter quite a bit to get this track nice and loud. The different vocal tracks are easy to hear and sort of like listen along to in the mix. And typically things are well leveled, there's no resonant frequencies, and it's nice and loud, definitely without pumping though. There does seem to be a bit more sort of gentle with the production in general in this one, I think, again, because of the classical leanings, but ultimately very effective. And then finally, track number 6, Backwards is Forward. Interesting turn there with that progression.
Backwards is forward and forward is backwards. I want a love that is happily ever after. Where is the chapter to save me from raptures? Cameras are off, so what did you capture? I am distraught, a natural disaster. I am the bait that commands to the master. Make it go slow, then make it go faster. Backwards is forward and forward is backwards.
Okay, I wasn't expecting it to be that assertive with the groove of percussion.
That stroke vague emotions. I am the person that strokes with the ocean, never with the lotion. That river is burning. Lessons I've taught are the ones that I'm learning. I'm hard on myself to get what I'm deserving. I have anxiety, these words got me nervous. Write it online, but say it in person. Question your heart, let your mind speak your purpose. I'm good at hurting, but where is my healing? If I'm doubted to try, then I'm shackled, not willing. The tarot cards are not of my dealing. The juice in my cup has turned over, spilling. Life takes no prisoners, but it feels like I'm in a cage. Shackles on my feet, but just know I'm not afraid. I'm writing my story. Another day see some things are worth the conqueror to overachieve. Live out your scenes, life out loud and start to breathe. Every day you wake up, you get another chance to dream. When you know you have the crown, gift the world with your presence. Treat them as such, elephants don't pick with peasants. Don't look back, focus on where you were headed. Number comes in threes, all I see is triple sevens. I do a 360 just to see those 11s. I'm standing with my ticket, waiting to be calling selections. Just to see my progressions, collecting all my confessions. It's a blessing. Life takes no prisoners, but it feels like I'm in a cage. Shackles on my feet, but just know I'm not afraid. I'm writing my story. Another day, another page. Full moon on the ground, but the sky collects the rain. Backwards is forward and forward is backwards. I want a love that is happily ever after. Where is the chapter that saved me from raptures? Cameras are off, so what did you capture? I am distraught, a natural disaster. I am the bait that commands to the master. Make it go slow, then make it go faster. Backwards is forward and forward is backwards.
And that was Backwards is Forward, KIGGAREVEAL, track number 6 off of the Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators album. At least with the playlist I've got anyways. So what do we think this last track is about? I think that Backwards is Forward is like a culmination of all the different experiences that we've had throughout these previous 5 tracks, should I say there, we're looking at everything we've struggled through and going, okay, I understand that my cup is overflowing and I've had these rough, difficult times, but we can't just focus on how tough everything has been, because that will overwhelm us. We have to try and find a way to get through this situation so that we don't destroy ourselves and make things worse. I think that's basically what it's about. I know there's more context to it and more nuance, especially as it's a longer track, but that's the main message I got from this. And it kind of also helps me preside upon an overall kind of understanding of this playlist, or these 6 tracks that I'll discuss in the final conclusion section. But we've done so many different styles of vocals within this album here. It was great to go back to the rapping in this one, to explore the flow there really quick with the words coming through clearly. I appreciated the polish on that. And it had a nice kind of buzz and glow to it, which was similar to some of the things that, the sound that we had in Crocodile Tears Burns Alligator, you know. It was a bit more kind of poppy, you know, than that first track, but that's okay. It was a bit more sort of peppy, and almost like we were trying to sort of do the rapping to kind of add a foil to some of the cleaner parts we were singing. It's like we were very much trying to lean in specifically to the tonal texture of the part that was behind us very kind of deliberately in this track there, to sort of segment or niche it further. And we have the kind of like the peppy sort of like crowd chants there as well there. That sounds kind of similar to I Kissed a Boy there, which I think works there. It's a nice kind of alternative vocal take on that. And we continue to build as we go. And a lot of this track at 4 minutes 30 is further sort of elaboration on the journey we've had there. It really is KIGGAREVEAL telling their story, and I think that that's sensible. There's a lot of instrumental layers throughout this piece. We have these guitars at the start that are very wistful with these kind of reverb and delay tails there, with the filtering of those vocal kind of crowd vocals chanting that sort of main motif. And to have the ticking of the clock as the main vocals come in sort of makes it sound like time is running out, but it's also a solid rhythmic device. But the claps kind of building us into a kind of that typical kind of quarter note accent there that I wasn't expecting at first, but kind of groove forward there was sensible there. So we've just got different parts that sort of like move effortlessly from one another, and like we filter some of the guitar parts or other kind of harmonic devices around the 1 minute 20 mark to allow the vocals more room to breathe after the rapped parts, so we're not staying on things for too long. I think with this track we're more sort of mindful of the need to not overplay our hand too much in certain parts of the listener retained attention. And I think the halftime groove in some of the choruses or in the chorus sections there just allowed you to sit with the vocals a bit more effectively there as we worked through a very sort of familiar rotated 4-chord progression with the backing parts. So I think the general kind of like adjustment of the interpretation of these chord progressions and melodies throughout the piece was more of a rhythmic orient there, you know. And when we had the keys coming around the 3 minute 18 mark or like earlier than that, simply for a more kind of Moorish kind of pensive feel to it, it brought things down without having the additional kind of intensity, those drum parts and everything beforehand. It's just dynamic range from a compositional perspective. With the middle 8 around that 3 minute 39 mark, very sort of like typical for the genre and helps sort of like segment and reinforce the main theme. And beyond that point, we'd kind of shown our hand with the cards that were at play there, and we had a solid kind of poppy single there. Yeah, generally thematically worked with the minor key leaning, which makes sense considering the subject matter, wasn't too on the nose about it. Most of the coloration was more sort of related to the different instrumental layers and how they portrayed themselves and not staying on anything for too long. But yeah, you could feel the mood from the music, and I think we didn't overstay our welcome with that. The studio recording, mixing and mastering, again, you could hear all the different elements in the mix, music's around you in the headphones. There was cool use of filtering in certain parts there to kind of make some things more subtle than others there. There was automation of the filtering at the start of the piece there to make things more prominent, a higher range there when things were initially kind of lower filtered that way. Nice and loud, bit of pumping there occasionally, but not all the time there. And we're going to talk about this album more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the overall conclusion of my review of this track from an act named KIGGAREVEAL, or rather the album from KIGGAREVEAL, titled Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators. In this section I'm going to be providing an overall, not a per track, conclusion on the 6 tracks we've listened through today, as well as any sort of applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this album is about? I think that this album talks about, well, from the very first track, the self-titled, kind of focusing on being sort of genuine, authentic, showing authenticity within yourself and knowing that if you don't, you're going to get burnt. I Kissed a Boy potentially opening up about our own sort of sexuality or finding out things about ourselves we're kind of locked away. And then tracks 4 to 6 were more sort of exploring the difficulties we were having internally and psychologically with other people and with ourselves, and just trying to find resolution within that, and realizing eventually with Backwards is Forward that we need to try and take these steps towards a brighter future and make the most of the time and opportunities that are present. And I think typically there is just some really, I think that's a sensible chronological progression through this. It teaches me about who KIGGAREVEAL is, and I think that it's nice not to, especially when these songs are wildly different in terms of style, and that's cool. We got ourselves a variety box album. It isn't the first time I've heard a variety box album before, and it definitely won't be the last. There are some prominent musicians that do this similar things, such as Jay Chow, for example. They try a lot of different genres, and it works well. I think typically here, we had a lot of flexibility in terms of the style of music they were doing. We had a lot of sort of like, it was a mixture of kind of hip hop and kind of like pop rock and pop, and some more sort of like kind of low key like lo-fi stuff, and like we had a lot of accessible elements there that I think suited the style of vocals that we were doing, because we were rapping, we had great flow in tracks like Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators, as well as Backwards is Forward. There we're very comfortable with our cadence and sort of like structure of our rhyme schemes and everything like that. When you went to sort of come off of that and went to come back on there, we had vocal chops and an interesting sort of like voiceover with the intro section. We had sung vocals and other parts there, cleaner vocals, and we had like ladies sort of backing and calling responses and harmonies is there as well there, different vocalists to sort of like build it up a bit more. We had crowd chants to further add a kind of an anthemic kind of feel to certain songs. We had vocal fry and more vulnerable kind of parts like Drive Slow Fast Car that were a bit quieter and sometimes were more outspoken, and I just think typically we communicated quite well. We're comfortable navigating the various sort of harmonies and melodies and sort of like main sort of song motifs and ideas, regardless of the different sections we're on, whether they were verses, bridges, choruses, or middle eights. And in a track like Life Bottle is Empty, if not mistaken, I'm not mistaken. I hope that's the case. We had, we knew when to come away from it. We knew when to not have vocals in certain sections, like the outro section where it was more like kind of lady vocals kind of being sprinkled over top with that melody with all the other orchestral elements, the guitars and drums. So typically we handled ourselves well on the microphone. These tracks ranged between like 2.5 to 4.5 minutes, and I think generally I was pretty happy with the length of them. I think When Did I Die, if I'm not mistaken, that I started to kind of tune out a little bit with that one, primarily because I just felt like we'd gotten the main crux of the track within the first minute or two. So I just wasn't necessarily benefiting as a listener from a general listener's perspective with the last 2 minutes. But then I think, to be fair, that can come from like a lack of instrumental variety there. It can be simply a more subdued kind of relatively, like, again, also subjectivity. Like, I'm not denying the musicality of it. It works fantastically well. Maybe I'm just a little bit sort of dopamine deficient, but like, I feel like when you have communicated an idea or a concept and you've done so adequately, it is good to further develop or add new things beyond that. And that's kind of patronizing to KIGGAREVEAL because they can clearly do that. There are songs like Backwards and Forwards, Life Bottle is Empty, where we have a lot of compositional diversity there. So that's not me saying we can't do it. So therefore, by virtue of that, it was a deliberate decision to keep things relatively more subdued in that piece, and that's totally fine. We're more sort of being a bit introspective there. It was less of a kind of varied experience, and that's totally okay. Each track had its own sort of set of instruments there. It would take a while for me to go through every single individual instrument I heard throughout this entire 6 tracks and break down what they did, but I'll go through like the major ones and discuss why I thought they were effective. I thought the drums in general across the board, whether they're sort of like more acoustic or sampled or kind of beat machines or like kind of chopped parts, were typically more than adequate. You had a variety of different kick, clap and sort of snare and cymbal patterns there, hi-hats and crashes, and some tom fills as well in occasional parts there, like I Kissed a Boy there. It was just great to explore the drum kit and have variations of like normal time and half time and double time to be able to explore our quarters, eighths, triplets and sixteenths effectively. And there were like mainly either half time or quarter note accents when we were going normal time there for a bit of a kind of a dancey vibe there. I think we were trying to discuss difficult subject matter without becoming too sort of like intense about it. I think that was a sensible decision, especially if you've got people who are listening for the first time and might not necessarily be able to relate to it. They still want to be able to sort of vibe along to the music without getting too emotionally invested in it. The bass lines, whether they're 808s or like electric basses, were well voiced and typically either worked around the root notes or fifths or octaves, or were a little bit more active in certain parts and sort of explored the modes or scales relevant there. But if they did explore, they were relatively subdued. They weren't too like present within the mix. The vocals were the focal point the vast majority of the time in this, although I should note that I did like the use of the keys and the woodwinds and some of the string sections in certain songs, such as Life Bottle is Empty. It was great for them to have their own sort of like theme or motif there to sort of like decorate within the arrangement. I like that that was separate from the vocal idea and that was kind of incorporated within it as kind of like their own sort of like version of that. The guitar layers with the very sort of like bar chord oriented parts there, the arpeggios, the synth leads that we had in songs like I Kissed a Boy for the catchiness and for, you know, like melodies that were more meant to be individually catchy and kind of peppy and energetic rather than trying to sort of like overcomplicate being like specific solo sections. Although to be fair, I suppose that was a synth solo at the end of I Kissed a Boy. The fingerstyle and Drive Slow Fast Car was kind of again pensive and sort of thoughtful and worked well within the relevant kind of like major and minor chords, as well as the suspended or ninths we had at extensions, and there was a nice sort of like flow with the picked elements that we had in other sort of funkier tracks. With the kind of melancholic or kind of the sadness within When Did I Die there, just again, I mentioned the mid to upper pads there kind of being nice and present on top of everything else, but that was more sort of a vocal extra bit of kind of oomph in that mid to upper range there to kind of make it seem like a bit more of a cinematic or theatrical element. There were different types of kicks as well. I think in When Did I Die, if I'm not mistaken, there you had this like real sense of oomph with what was going on with the with those kicks there. They sidechained really neatly, and a lot of these tracks were done in a way which is like sort of commercially very sort of like viable and acceptable. I think the use of brushes as well with the kit, in case I haven't mentioned that already, with Life Bottle is Empty was fantastic. There had a kind of like moorish kind of subtle jazzy feel that was in contrast to other sort of like drum elements within the piece. In fact, actually, I just want to sort of give an overall statement that I don't think like thematically each track typically worked with major or minor chords relevant to the subject matter. We used instruments that worked well within a type of genre of music that would sort of either elevate the mood, such as I Kissed the Boy, or bring it down with Life Bottle Is Empty or When Did I Die There. We had a sense of compositional diversity and sophistication in Life Bottle Is Empty, with again the variation of different ideas and composers. I think structurally it was more about, again, the effect, the combination of elements that kind of either elevated or kind of reduced it. Piano typically was more of a kind of a harmonic accompaniment to a lot of the other elements within the arrangements when it was there. It wasn't an all the time thing, but it typically sort of, again, reinforced what it needed to from like a mid-range perspective. And yeah, the guitar and piano were great friends within this, I suppose. I should note special sort of like mention to the turntablism and Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators as well. The first track there, I liked the chopping and sort of like skipping of different parts here in a way rhythmically. It just was a fantastic sort of like foil to what was going on with those bass and drum parts there. It was nice to have the hip hop kind of like the old school hip hop kind of feel to the track, and to include that as a kind of nod to that. I thought it was very authentic. But yeah, the studio recording, the mixing and mastering, the production in general was very good. The vocals, guitars, bass, flutes, woodwind, strings, drums, everything was quite present within the free spectrums of the stereo field. You know, the music surrounded you in the headphones. There was filtering of different elements there. Like in one of the tracks, I think we kind of came up steadily and allowed more of the high range to kind of peak out as we allowed other elements to kind of exist there. And we played with the intensity of that for the listener. There were pauses and sort of like delay and echo tails and some vocal takes as well like that to allow it to sort of like float within the ether. It was a very like tightly glued piece there. I think in some parts where there was the guitars or like the orchestral elements like the woodwinds or the like even like the brass stabs in certain parts there, like it's tight. And at some points I think with Drive Slow Fast Car there was a little bit kind of like distortion some of the vocals from like a limiting perspective, I think, because it was just very, very loud there. I just think that in this day and age, you could have potentially have allowed a bit more dynamic range for Drive Slow Fast Car, but nonetheless, typically across the board, things were quite well mixed. If there was dynamic range, it was more of a compositional device, and I don't think there was, in general, there's a note out of place. No applicable constructive critique from me aside from what I mentioned about like When Did I Die, and not sure if it necessarily necessitated the length or structure of it, although I'm sure on a second listen basis, I'd probably find reasons for there to be that continuous thing. I'm wondering if there was more sort of like narrative that I missed in that part. But ultimately, yeah, general, it's quite a positive review. From a general listener's perspective, I feel like it was one of the most unique ways I've heard people approach mental health. And I kind of dig the journey that they had through this. It seems like they just wanted to explore a lot of different styles of music and sort of communicate in a way that felt very authentic or sincere to them. I feel like that if people listen to this, they'll be able to relate to it, which I suppose is unfortunate because it makes me feel sad that people are struggling like this, but it is a part of our existence, and I wish everyone best of luck in finding a happier future. And I wish KIGGAREVEAL the best of luck in future with their music, because generally I just feel like, again, that the journey was a reasonably satisfying one. I had a good time listening through his music. Because thank you for watching my review of this album, or these 6 tracks off of an album from KIGGAREVEAL. This album titled Crocodile Tears Burns Alligators. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and their SoundCloud page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember, support your local musicians and artists at this point in time as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.